This is Josh Taylor and you're watching Boxing Social.
This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. I'm delighted to be joined by Shane McGuigan. We're in Glasgow ahead of Josh Taylor's fight with Viktor Postol. How are you, Shane?
Good, thank you, Rob. Looking forward to this Saturday. Just free running now, right into the fight, and did a little bit of public workout there today for Josh. Check weight tonight, and we're all good.
How's he been looking in preparation? It's my understanding that his weight has gone well this time. He's looking in good shape in the gym. Do you agree with that?
I mean, Josh is always he's a good professional with his weight. He always keeps himself in relatively good nick, especially outside the camp. It has, the sparring's been up. He's one of these guys that he has to be kind of like really up for it. You know, the O'Hara Davies camp was brilliant because he was super pumped for the fight, and with the last opponent falling through and then a late replacement, just didn't really do it for him. Even Vasquez, it was former name, and he looked at him and just wasn't threatened by him. But if you look at Viktor Postol, he's only been beaten once by Terence Crawford. It was a unification fight. He's been a world champion. He won his last fight, although he didn't look as good. Whether that could have been, whether Postol wasn't up for it, or, so at least like Taylor's like really, he's been preparing like mentally and physically for this one for a long time, and he's super up for it. And it's great for me because it makes my job a lot easier. I don't have to keep G'ing him up every day. He's getting his own inspiration from Postol.
Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Josh, because Josh is somebody who I've interviewed a few times, and we always touch upon your relationship, and he sort of echoes that really. When he's got a fight that he can really get his teeth into, he does change. He's really up for it, and he's also told me in the past that part of your job kind of being the yin to his yang, so when he is up for a fight you are able to rein him back in. I understand he's something of a perfectionist. What's it like working with him in the build up to a fight like this?
Yeah, he's a massive perfectionist, and that can be that can get him to where he is right now, but it can also be a detriment at the top level. If you're always critiquing yourself, you're not actually getting confidence. You're constantly trying to impress, trying to improve, and that's just putting too much pressure on yourself. He's a special talent. Like, he's a natural athlete. He's a natural fighter. He can fight in the pocket. He can fight at distance. He feels comfortable in the ring. But sometimes, it's just my job is managing him, that he doesn't burn himself out, because we'll do 12 rounds and he'll want to do 14. He's that kind of guy, which is it's nice, especially at the start of their career. But at the top, you can leave a lot of your good work in the gym. So he's been in title fights from such an early point in his career. Like even Dave Ryan. I mean, he wasn't worried about Dave Ryan. He was just worried about the rounds. And now he's gone into, was it 11th against Vasquez? He's gone into championship rounds. He knows he can do it. He knows he can do it in the gym. That's given him the level of confidence. But he's a great lad. He's a serious worker, and he's fun, bit mental outside when he's at home. Like, he loves the motorbikes. Enjoys himself a little bit too much, but he's really maturing into an adult. Like, he's for myself seeing him, he's been around the gym, he's been around the Framptons, the Hayes, the Groves. He's seen all these guys do their big nights, and he's right on that horizon now. And soon he's going to be the star.
Tell me a little bit about that, because one of the most impressive things for me as a boxing fan, first and foremost, is how aggressively is probably the right word, without being sort of kamikaze, the way he's been matched. Yeah. He's had good challenges, as you say, the Dave Ryan fight, and then the O'Hara Davies fight, Vasquez, and now he's facing Viktor Postol in what many people, considering a 50-50 fight. How has it been having somebody who's willing to challenge themselves, willing to take the risks, and willing to learn on the job like that?
It's brilliant, but he's a throwback. You know what I mean? He really is a throwback. He'll fight anyone. He's not one of these guys that say, "Oh, I'll fight anyone," but then really they know that they look good against a certain style. Put him in against Vasquez because we knew he could stop Vasquez. Took him, it took him into the late rounds to get the job done, but he still had gears late on in the fight. Postol, I mean, he's a typical Eastern European style, tall, can punch You know, he's very, very technically sound. A lot of people would shy away from that challenge. You know what I mean? They'd rather risk themselves with someone else. You know what I mean? But we know that we can push him aggressively. We know that his style, once he's in there with the small gloves on, he can look good against anyone. You know, we don't have to build a hype train. You know, he builds it himself. He really can fight, and it's just showing the way we've been matching him is we don't really. We're not. He's not scared of anyone, and we're not scared to match him with anyone because we know that he's got the ingredients to get the job done. And I really believe he's going to do it on Saturday. And I think he's going to do it in a serious style as well, and send a shock and a message out to the rest of the 140 division. And that's something that we really need to do because we're not going to get any favours. Do you know what I mean? We need to push him on, and luckily he's got the ability to do it.
When was the first time you saw Josh fight? I mean, I'm assuming it was back in his amateur days. I mean, what was he like when you first saw him, and what sort of caught your eye, as it were, for him as a talent?
Well, you know, I remember seeing him come through. He took Ian Weaver's spot to get to 2012 Olympics, and you know, I think he had a box offs with Sam Maxwell. I always keep my eye open for the amateurs coming through. I used to keep I used to put a lot of my attention into the Irish amateur team and stuff like that. But I've always, you know, like WSB is a great setup. It's great. You can see who really fight well over 5 rounds with the head guards off. Because some guys can trick the system. You know what I mean? They can look good when they're, you know, when they got the head guards on. I know the head guards aren't on anymore, but a few years back. But you know, he had the speed. Didn't think he had a lot of punching power. Started filling in, went up a weight division, and then next thing you know, he's catching guys and putting them on their backside. So you know, around Commonwealth Games, we really sort of sat back and took note of him because he just looked like he had that sort of special ingredients, and he looked like that one of those. I mean, it was a bit like the Amir Khan, you know, in the Olympics. Everyone just was besotted by them, and I felt like out of the 2014 games, Josh Taylor was the star.
How different is he now as a professional? Obviously, you've mentioned that he's filled out a little bit, he's punching harder, but what other differences have you noticed in him other than the fact that he's obviously more experienced now?
Mindset, you know, he's a bit older, he's more settled. You know, when you're young and you're in the amateurs, you're travelling about all the place, you don't really have a lot of cares. You know, he's got responsibilities now, and that can make you a lot better a fighter. It can also break people, you know, having mortgages, having bills to pay, things like that, you know, because boxing's such a hit and miss sport, you know. But it's mainly his mindset, you know. Yeah, he's improved technically, he's improved his power, he's filled into the weight even more. He's now walking in the ring at close to 11 stone. You know, he's one of the bigger light welterweights out there, and he's punches with either hand. But like, I feel like the pro style really suits him because he's got the speed, and with the small gloves on, you don't have to be looking for big shots. He's naturally got weight in his shots, but it's just the speed that just takes people out. And I really believe he's going to be an elite fighter very, very soon.
How close is he, do you think, to his maximum potential? He's come a long way in a relatively short period of time as a professional. Is there still significant mileage to come, or do you think he's approaching his peak now?
I think he's you know, 90%, 85, 90%, and really that last 10, 15% is just experience. You know what I mean? Knowing when to exchange, knowing when you're hurt a little bit, when to sort of tie them up, pull them around, because he will get hurt in fights. He will be tired in fights as well. And at that top level, you know, you need to just have that mindset. And I feel like a lot of that is just experience. You look at George, for instance. He's coming on every fight. He's just matured, and he's matured from his losses and stuff. And I believe, you know, that's that last 10-15%, having confidence and belief in yourself, your team, and also mixing it with the elite fighters and knowing that you can be there. A lot of people get fazed by it. As soon as they get up to that, oh, he's a 2-8 world champion, or he's some superstar of boxing, they've all got two fists, you know what I mean? Like, they've all got gloves on, like same gloves as you. They're all vulnerable if you hit them with the right shot. It's just making sure you train your mind to not be overwhelmed. And I know that he has an extremely strong mind and all the ability to back it up.
Now, I just want to talk to you about your career path in boxing. I mean, it's something that I mentioned to you off camera. Having the name McGuigan, it's sort of, well, I'm interested to know what that was like. Obviously, I understand that you were an amateur fighter yourself, and now you've made a very successful career as a trainer. What was it like growing up with Barry McGuigan as your father?
It's great, I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't know any different. Everyone was like, "What's it like having a famous father?" Well, I've never not had a famous father. People have always stopped him in the streets, and he's a people's person, so he's always given people the time of day. When I started boxing, I mean, he didn't really want me to box. I went to my mum. I actually just started going down the gym with one of my teachers of all things. I was at Millfield, a boarding school, and he was going down the local gym, and I just started saying, "Can I come down with you?" And I managed to get an exemption from doing some studies and stuff, and be able to go down and train. And Dad sort of heard wind of it, and once I picked it up, he wanted to be involved. I boxed from when I was 13 and a half, 14 till I was 21. And just really got into boxing because I loved the sport. Actually, I wanted to just trim up, and have a few digs, test myself. Great sport, great, like, teaches you everything you need to know as a kid going through that. Discipline, conquering fears. Once you really conquer all that sort of stuff, everything else is irrelevant. You know what I mean? You learn how to manage your life a lot easier. And having a famous father like Dad, especially in the boxing industry, was a detriment to me at times, but it also has opened many, many doors for me. So I wouldn't exactly have liked to have gone down the route that Eubank Jr. has gone down. I feel, although we've just come off a win against him, I do feel a bit sorry for him, because he's always going to be forever compared to his dad, and he's an individual in his own right, and he can really fight. But you're always going to get that. You're never as good as your father. Your dad was a throwback. He was a real fighter. You're just you're a phony or whatever. And then you're constantly trying to prove yourself to people that doesn't really make a difference. You know what I mean? To why do you need their respect? But for me, I got everything I needed from boxing, and now I'm involved in it. I'm still enjoying it, and it's a great sport that I think I'll be in for the rest of my life.
Was that ever a factor in you stopping your career as a fighter and then becoming a trainer? Was there ever a time where it was sort of, I don't want to be Barry McGuigan's son anymore, in that regard of being compared to him as a fighter, and wanting to sort of carve your own legacy, as it were, as a trainer? Did that ever impact on your decision?
Not really. I mean, a little bit, in a sense. Like, I didn't really like the pressure of it all. I just loved the training, to be honest. I'd have sparred day in, day out, but once I was like, okay, we got a tournament. To be honest, I did love the tournaments at the start, but it was like my next steps were leading towards the pro ranks, and I just thought to myself, I got into this sport because I wanted to test myself, wanted to create some discipline, shift a little bit of weight, and because I love the sport. And once it becomes your job, you lose that little bit of love for it. And I was lucky and privileged enough to come from a nice background, financially secure background, that I didn't need to jump in and have professional fights. And I feel like I'm very content with my decision. I don't go to bed every night thinking, oh, I wish I'd have fought as a pro. I'm happy because I prefer channeling my discipline into others, and the things that I've experienced in boxing, and being able to give it to other people. And although I didn't fight as a pro, like, it's just the mindset. I mean, Dad from a young age instilled, like, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it properly. We trained twice a day from when I was really 14 to 21, and that just taught me so much. So, you know, now I can understand where I went wrong in some amateur boxing. So some of my preparation, I trained far too much like a pro. I remember you doing 8 3-minute rounds. I used to spar the Garvey brothers. I'd spar Bradley Skeet, and they'd be jumping in doing 3 rounds and jumping out, and he'd keep me in there. But it was like, you know, some of the stuff like that I just didn't train right, so I went away and got studied up to do strength conditioning and stuff like that, and learnt a little bit of the physiology of the body, different energy systems, and why I was feeling tired and flat when I was making weight, and they've all come together now, and now I can take my experiences on and be able to put them into the fighters that's coming through.
What was your dad like on a day-to-day basis when you were training? Obviously, you've mentioned that you trained twice a day. He would make you do, things properly, as it were, so to speak. What was he like on a day-to-day, dealing with him on a day-to-day basis? Was it undue pressure? Did he annoy you? Was there anything like that?
Oh yeah, he annoyed the hell out of me. Like, I got a coach called Lee Pullen in after a few years, and he's now on GB Sheffield team, and he used to do at least half the work with me, because Dad used to get me to fight in the pocket all the time, and amateur boxing at the time was a point system. So yeah, we got Lee in, and we did lots of sort of drills, and I liked working with someone outside, and I feel like any fighter coming through should try and distance himself from family, because no matter how much respect I had for him, I knew he'd done it at the top level and stuff, but when he's saying to you, he's your dad at the end of the day, when he's saying, go on, get this run done, it's 1 o'clock, you should have been doing it at 11 o'clock, you're just procrastinating. I'm like, it would wind you up, and it'd rub you up the wrong way. And also I feel like, it's just, I was very similar to him. Once you're so similar to somebody, like, you clash heads all the time. So I feel like, you should maybe look to distance yourself from a family member when you're boxing. I've just got a little bit there.
That's quite all right. On the brand new Boxing Social mic head. Do you want to get some water?
No, I'm good.
Okay, no problem. Have you found that it's different now that you're a trainer? You're somebody who's achieved, as I say, a lot in a relatively short space of time as a trainer. Does he still try and give you bits of advice? I mean, are you receptive to it now, or do you feel like you've sort of distanced yourself from that?
No, I mean, he's been there, done it, got the t-shirt. I don't know. Like, fighters that I'm even working with, they don't know what it's like, what he went through in Vegas, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 rounds in, exhausted, no water in your body, same day weigh-in. Those are experiences that he's had that I have no clue what it feels like. So some of the confidence that he can give my fighters is huge. That reassurance. Like, he's not really involved with George, but he goes in and watches the hand wraps. Like, he'll go into Eubank Jr.'s dressing room and watch them. And just the fact that my dad was a Hall of Famer, he's in there watching Eubank Jr. wrap his hands. He said he was absolutely he was so nervous. And that's that little bit of gamesmanship. And you could see the dad, it was winding the dad up. And these are the things like, at the rules meeting, Eubank Sr. won't listen to me. He's not threatened by me, but he's threatened by a Hall of Famer. So we've got that in our locker. I've got the ability to have, sometimes, like, people are constantly listening to one voice, they become like, numb to it. Once Dad sometimes comes in, he'll give some certain feedback, see it from a different perspective. Like, I'm never precious about my fighters. I just want the best for them. And he's got a great eye. I mean, he can spot talent like that. He's got, phenomenal eye for talent. And also, he's really good at giving them that little bit of confidence, that edge of confidence and that belief. Like, he can really G them up, sometimes too much. Sometimes he's G'ing them up 2 or 3 days out from a fight, and you can see them, they're just like starting to get excited for it. It's like, and that's just for me to manage. But it's great to have it was great to have such a close relationship with my dad, and I wouldn't be in this position unless it was for him. So I'm always going to be forever in debt to him.
He's somebody that is very passionate about the sport. I mean, he's given his life to boxing and still involved on a day-to-day basis. Is he now receptive to your advice and your way of doing things?
Yeah, I think he is. He's got a lot of belief. I mean, he backslaps me a little bit too much. He patronises me too much. Oh, it's brilliant work, son. But it's only because he cares, and I know he's been around the mill. He knows what other coaches are like, and I feel I can get. When I first came into the sport, working with one fighter, I thought I knew it all. I knew I had lots to learn, but then you learn to work with other fighters, and you see different personalities. And from a coach's perspective, it's not working with talent; it's working with the mindset. That's the most important thing. It's learning how to deal and dissect people, and get to know them inside out. What makes them tick? What annoys them? You know what I mean? Really sort of try and break them down a little bit. And once you get into that mindset, it's just you can bring percentages out of them that they don't even know that they've got, and instill belief in them. And obviously all the technique work is brilliant, all the pad work's great and all, but at the top level it's instilling belief. And yeah, that's something that I feel like I've got an ability to work with different people. A lot of former fighters, you've never been there, you don't know what it's you don't know what it's like to be in a unification fight. Yeah, fair dues, I don't have a clue. But they're not people persons. You know what I mean? They don't give people the time of day because they're so focused on themselves. You need to be able to sit back. Everyone's completely different. Everyone's completely unique, and that as a coach, you've got to be responsive to that.
Now, I was there when Chris Eubank Jr. called you a PE teacher. I know Chris Eubank Senior. Beg your pardon, Junior, if you happen to be listening to this. Yeah, Chris Eubank.
Absolutely not.
Oh, charming.
Sorry.
Chris Eubank Senior called you a PE teacher. You strike me, Shane, as this is the first time we've done a real sit-down interview. You strike me as somebody who's very secure in what you've achieved and what you're currently doing. Has it always been that way? Have there been times, probably early on in your training career, where it has got under your skin, people levelling those criticisms at you? I mean, you seem to be able to rise above it now. Has it always been that way?
Pretty much, yeah. Very supportive family, that. I'm not really out there to prove people wrong, because it's never going to happen. Floyd Mayweather's still trying to prove people wrong, and he's the greatest, of our generation anyway, of fighters. And everyone, but he didn't take this fight, and people are always going to have their say. So you can never try and overcome that. You just let them have their thing. Just crack on and do what you do. When Senior said that, I knew it was coming. I knew it was straight, and I thought it was actually quite funny. If you zoomed into mine and George's faces, we have a giggle. As long as my fighter has belief in me, has the utmost belief in me, as long as really as long as they do, that's all that matters. As long as my old man does as well, then we're good to go. It's once you're in that little circle, it doesn't matter what anyone else say. It doesn't matter what people are saying, the negative stuff. It's just because they're worried. And clearly that was the case, because once actually all the cameras went off and we were in the rules meeting, nervous. Do you know what I mean? We had them beat. We knew it. Because when Senior jumped out of the car and went up to George Groves at the gala, when the whole thing, he said, "You better not beat my son." That was the first thing he said, because he was flustered by it. You know what I mean? And it's just little things come out, and then it's all bravado, it's all a show. And as long as we're confident within, then that's all that matters.
I was going to go on to Eubank Jr., George Groves, probably later on, but seeing as we've just spoken about it, then it feels like a good time to just carry that on. Yeah. First of all, how is George? As I understand, he's now back in training for the Callum Smith fight. How has he been doing?
He's been going great. He's been seeing a physio called Kevin Lidlow, also working with a guy called Ben Carraway and John Connor. So he's got some of the best experts out there on rehabilitating his shoulder. It's not an easy process. Shoulder's a ball and socket joint. There's so many muscles that attach to it, so many ligaments that go over it, the joint as well. So, but in terms of being where we need to be, I mean, he's sparred a couple of times now, so it's not as quick as it should be, but as it would be when come fight night. But we're making some really good progress, and he's starting to get a lot of faith and confidence in it now. And I think by the time September comes around, he's going to be... Actually, I know by the time September comes around, he's going to be firing and at his best.
Now, George is somebody, I mean, we touched on this earlier, he's had like a storied career, he's been through many ups and downs, finally got his hands on a world title against Chudinov, made the defence against Jamie Cox, and then was involved in like another huge fight with Chris Eubank Jr. After all of the stuff that he'd been through throughout his career, what was going through your head when the shoulder came out in the last round of a fight that he dominated? He won virtually every round up to that point. What was going through your head at that point?
Well, I wasn't... Once David Haye snaps his Achilles in the 5th or 6th round, nothing's really going to faze you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, his shoulder went out. We had 2 minutes left. I knew that he didn't have the power to take George out with one shot. And George was fresh enough to be able to make him miss and not let him start his combination. So, you know, I wasn't really worried. I just didn't like to see it. You know, I just didn't like to see a boxing masterclass, in my opinion, anyway. The fact that he diffused him, tied him up, made him look clumsy, completely made him look inferior. End like that. It just gave the fans and everyone, that shoulder came on strong, because a lot of people didn't even know his shoulder was out. They just thought Eubank came on strong, and George still buzzed him with the right uppercut, right hook, with his shoulder out. But it was an easy fight for him. Let's be honest. Let's strip it back. It was an easy fight. It wasn't. Martin Murray was a harder fight than that. Tactically, we just got it right.
Do you think that if George hadn't been through the sort of experiences and the ups and downs of his career, that there could have been a panic? I mean, I was actually ringside, and it happened on the other side of the ring to me, so I didn't actually know that the shoulder had gone out. And I thought he was sort of hands down, and similar to the first Froch fight when he dropped his hands and he was on the ropes because he did that, and then little did I know that his shoulder had gone. Had he not have been through all of the experiences in his career, would a younger, less experienced fighter have panicked in that situation, do you think?
It's hard to say. I feel like just the way George boxed the whole way through that fight was an experienced mindset. He got success early in that fight. Not as much success as he got in the Froch fight, but he got a lot of success. He hurt him, dropped him a few times that weren't counted. And being ringside, you could see every shot that hit him like half clean was buzzing him. And just the fact that he settled down and he just stuck to his guns, kept setting traps, kept nailing him with shots, and the knockout didn't come. But the fact that he kept setting it up properly and just didn't go winging from his boots, which could have easily happened about the 4th or 5th round. He was raring to go, but it was up to me to just say, not yet, let's make him look foolish. Getting into his mindset, be like, it's better to make him look foolish and clumsy than trying to go out there and chin him. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you just don't find the correct shot, and when you go out forcing for it, it sometimes doesn't come. So his mindset in that fight was brilliant, and I feel like his mindset since he's won the world title, and even before, like the few fights on the lead up to it, he's really getting to know his body, getting to know how to prepare for fights, come in the ring at the right weight, layer his shots, not load up with every single shot. He's got great length on his jab. He's got great. He's just got naturally heavy hands, and he's so explosive. But that can also tire you out, missing with the shot, extending certain things. Like he's just becoming a really complete fighter. And yeah, I just think we've still got lots more to offer. Everyone wrote him off. I mean, they thought Martin Murray fight was a 50-50 fight. You know, they thought Eubank. There was like 23 experts or something, and there was like 20 that picked Eubank Jr. You know, I think there was what was that stat? Was it about 19 or something that picked Eubank Jr. or something? It was like 23, like in Boxing Monthly or something. Yeah, it was quite like, and it's easy to look back on it in 2 or 3 months' time once he's won and won it comfortably. Oh yeah, no, but we always knew he was going to win it. You know, it was just whether he was going to tire or something. It's like everyone sides with his opponents, but hopefully now they'll get behind him.
Just touch upon that. When George came to you, it was on the back of his time with Paddy Fitzpatrick. He was certainly, I think, the least you could say, was at a crossroads in his career after the Badou Jack fight. How different is he now to the fighter that came to you after losing to Badou Jack, after leaving Paddy Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, as a fighter, he's improved. You know, he's back punching hard, back punching fast again. You know, like I was just basically contacted, did a little bit of work together. We gelled. I said, "This is the way I feel like you've been training. This is the way I want you to train." And he's just been on board. Dropped his strength and conditioning coach, dropped his other sort of running coach, dropped everyone, you know, and did it the right way. Completely, you know, relocated to my gym, didn't want to train at his gym. So did everything was asked, and I feel like since then he's now just a level of confidence and like security within his life, you know. Not just financially, but just peace of mind, knowing that he was always had the ability to win a world title, and now he's done it. And now it's just like, well, let's go out and do what we always want, you know, what he always wanted to do, unified divisions, and it's not a massive hurdle to get over these big fights anymore. He knows, and he's got the belief in himself that he can do it. And it's just actually, because I remember, like, we signed the Chudinov fight, it was like, he come in the gym and he goes, "Right, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing different?" I said, what do you mean, what are we doing different? I said, we've had 5 fights. This is our 6th fight together. Like, sorry, we'd have 4 fights. There was like a 5th or 6th fight together. I said, well, we're doing exactly the same as what we've always done, except on Saturdays I'm going to drop your run out because you've had 4 fights in the spin. Like, you're going to do 1 less session a week. No, but I wanted to do an extra versatile. He wanted to do more basically because he just thought this is a world title fight. But that's a lot of the time the problem. People just build it up in their minds. Just another fight. It's almost just another sparring session, just with small gloves on and a crowd and a little shiny belt at the end of it. It's just the way you got to look at it.
How much of a difference has there been in George? And I appreciate this could be a difficult question for you to answer after the Edward Goodnecht fight. In your role as a trainer, was it different for you? Was it difficult for you to sort of not retain that killer instinct? Obviously, don't want to come off in poor taste, but you kind of get what I'm saying in that regard.
It was difficult, and I feel like George is very good at hiding his emotions. But you know, if the shoe was on the other foot, you know, there would be no hard feelings towards Eddie Goodnecht. And George has gone and seen the family, did the right thing. You know, he's always there to. He doesn't want to dwell on it, you know, but just these things happen in boxing, and it's just a terrible situation that happened. But he's dedicated his whole life towards the sport. That was a freak accident, you know, and it's a nasty sport. You know what I mean? You're in there, yeah. You can get a little bit. You can think a little bit more gun shy, but then once someone else is trying to take your head off, it just all those things go out the window, and you got to do your best. And I feel like George is very mature, and he's dealt with it in a really positive way, and also, you know, he still really cares. You know what I mean? But he's you know, he dedicated the fight. Chudinov to Goodneck, and just some really nice touches. You know, my dad, for instance, got people to relate to. You know, my dad had young Ali that passed away 6 weeks after his fight. You know, Nick Blackwell, for instance, was in our gym a few times sparring and stuff like that, and it's just there's lots of these things that they happen on a regular basis, and well, not on a regular basis, but you know, these tragedies do happen, and you know, it's part of the sport, and it's something that you sign up for whenever you become a professional fighter.
Moving forward with George, Callum Smith, is that a more difficult fight than Chris Eubank Jr. in your opinion?
Yeah, it's definitely a more difficult fight. Punches more correct, punches longer, got a good amateur background, boxed at an international level. So fundamentally he's a better fighter. Is he as tough? I don't know. You know, can he? I think he can rise to the occasion. I think sometimes the best performance of him to date was the Fielding fight. You know, when he was it was scheduled as a 50-50 fight, big crowd and stuff. So I feel like he can rise to the occasion. But George is seasoned. He's also, you know, doesn't get caught up in exchanges. With, you know, Callum Smith, he likes to fight that middle distance, and because he's 6'4", he's got length in his shots and punches really correctly. But I feel like we can devise a strategy to dissect him.
Another opportunity for you to lock horns with Joe Gallagher, somebody that you've come across in the past, not always favourably, not in a results point of view, but other stuff, shall we say. Does that play any factor in your preparation for you personally?
No, I think if you look at myself and Joe, like, you know, we had little arguments and little tussles and little rivalries, but he never really respected me, but I feel like he does now. You might not say he does, but all coaches should respect each other, because it's a bloody hard job. You know what I mean? We're in there from early hours. We're putting our energy and time into someone else all the time. You know, it doesn't really deserve us to be having a disputes over each other. And look at the two fighters we had a dispute with. We're both no longer with them. So what's the point in even bothering to start all this animosity? Good luck to him and his fighter, and I know he probably wishes me exactly the same. So there'll be no, you know, there'll be no bitter words from my end. And if he chooses to stoop that low, which I don't think he will, then I'll have to just pipe him down. But it's just, that's it, you know what I mean? It's just we're living through our fighters.
Another one of your now former fighters, David Haye, recently announced his retirement from boxing. First of all, what did you make of the Tony Bellew rematch? Sad
to see. Yeah, I didn't think his body was able to take the training camps. I voiced my opinion before. Came in the ring too light. That's what happened. Got himself down too light. That's what it looked like from my point of view. You know, he was getting hit clean on that first fight. They weren't phasing him, but he's 38. He's getting himself down to 97 kilos or 98 kilos, and just looked a size smaller. And when you're a size smaller, you're a bit more fragile. So it's the right thing to do. Call it a day. I mean, he texted me the day that he was going to go out and thanked me for my help, and even though it was a short stint together, but you know, he's got a story to tell, and I feel like people are gonna. He's got a guy called Dale has done this documentary since the Klitschko's, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it, because it's a story of two sides. Do you know what I mean? The glory days and also the lows. And you know, people can make their assumptions on David, and look at him and say, yeah, but he shouldn't say this and he shouldn't have said that about Bellew. He was selling the fight and he was hyping it up, and we did a good job of it. He did a great job of it, you know. And but his days were, you know, they were numbered. You know, he just couldn't sustain his training camps, and he couldn't get himself physically in the positions that he needed to be to win at top level. And you know, Bellew isn't an elite fighter in my opinion. He's a great fighter, and he can have a proper tear up, like, you know. But the real top guys in the heavyweight division and even the cruiserweight division will beat him. But he's world class because he's won a world title, and you just have to be fighting at a top level to be able to compete like that. You know, you've got to be doing it on a regular basis, and you just can't replicate it in sparring. You can't do it. You have to have the right fights to get yourself back into the mix. And yeah, it was a shame to see it all happen that way. But sometimes these things have to happen for people to say no. You know what I mean? And really understand it. And good thing is, he's clear as a whistle. There's no miles on the clock. He's still a young 38. You know, he looks great. He's got money in the bank. He's one of the few that's really succeeded from boxing, and I think now he understands. I gave it my all, and you know, I can walk away happy. So fair dues to him.
Something that you just touched upon with Tony Bellew, I know recently he's been making a lot of noise about fighting Tyson Fury potentially. As somebody who devised the game plan, I know it was ultimately in defeat, freak injuries and what have you, but to beat Tony Bellew, how would you see that fight potentially matching up if he were to step in the ring with Tyson Fury?
I really wasn't impressed with Fury's comeback fight, but he just didn't look balanced. Like, I feel like he needs to get a little bit more weight off, maybe a bit more work on his leg strength, but that's a fraction of what he's really capable of. Well, right now it's a guessing game. Do you know what I mean? It's the same situation that David was in against the Demoris or the Jurjars. What's he got left, right? We didn't see anything there. You know, we can say, yeah, he was playing about. He was only 10% of what he's got. Or he's 90% and he's just not able to find the right shots. So time will tell. And Fury could be the... Bellew could be the upsetter. He could, and I think he knows it. I think he knows that, you know, Fury's not the athlete he was when he boxed Klitschko. But then I know he has been in the gym, Fury, on a consistent basis. And maybe in 6 months' time he might even surpass where he was physically, however many years, 3 years ago when he was fighting, 2 years ago when he was fighting Klitschko, wherever it was. So time will tell with that. But I feel like right now I'm going to go with Fury to just outbox him.
Okay, well, stepping back to yourself with your young stable of gym, you've got a really thriving stable of fighters currently. You've got Lee McGregor in action this Saturday, Chantel Cameron, one of the most exciting prospects in boxing. Female boxing completely aside, I mean, she can really punch. I've seen her in the gym. You've also got Chris Billum-Smith, who was in action this past weekend, got a good win. Talk to me a little bit about that stable of fighters and what it's like working with those on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's busy. You know, the good thing is that we've put 3 on the one card. It's not great because on fight night it's a little bit stressful, but they can all peak together. They can all train together. And you know, Chris, for instance, fighting his first 8-rounder. Great fight, by the way. I wish it had been televised because really, really great fight. The guy was so tough. Just knocked lumps out of each other in a 16-foot ring. 2 cruiserweights should never be fighting in a 16-foot ring. But yeah, and then obviously going on to this week, I've got Chantel out in a 10-rounder. She's constantly improving. It's quite hard to get her fights because she's such a ferocious force. She's punching hard. Also, just one of the most fittest people I've ever seen. Like, just the recovery of her. Like, she can do like high threshold training and just be recovered within 30 seconds. She's an absolute machine. And also improving in a boxing standpoint a lot. Lee McGregor's a really talented kid. Huge for the weight, bantamweight. I don't think he's going to he's adamant he's going to stay there long, but he does the weight easy. But it's just he's only 21 and he's got one of those frames that he might end up being a super featherweight, you know. But he can really fight, and he's now just going straight into title fights. So yeah, really looking forward to his progression. And then obviously Taylor, we've already spoken about, and George, and I've got another person joining the stable in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be announcing it. But he's a top fighter as well. So it's a bit of a revolving door, but my job is just to make sure that doing my best for them, and they're improving and they're in a happy place, you know. And the good thing is that, you know, with that dynamic shifting of the last year with people leaving the gym, you know, the energy's back again. Everyone's buzzing. It's a family, you know, like it's a family again. It kind of got a little bit disjointed, but since it's Taylor's already nearly up to world title fights, George is, you know, he's doing this thing. It's just a real nice buzz about it. And got this lad over here, Josh Pritchard, as the assistant. Got Darryl as my strength and conditioning coach, Darryl Richards. Worked with John Connor. Just got some really sound people around the gym, and it's a good little buzz.
How important is it for people like Lee McGregor, Chantel Cameron to be in the gym with now a Josh Taylor or a George Groves? I mean, I know we spoke earlier about how important it was for Josh Taylor to be around your Framptons, your Hayes and your Groves. Is that now the position that Josh is in? He's now in a position alongside George Groves where he provides that kind of that pedestal for others to look to aspire to. Is that something that's important in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. And it's also just little bits of advice. You know, everyone's human. Like sometimes if you're training in a gym and you're the number one in the gym and you're only fighting 6-rounders, you don't really know what it's like to prepare for a championship fight. You've got guys like McGregor in there, seeing George training all the time, seeing Taylor training, and you know, like he's in awe, for instance, of Taylor because he's just seen him, you know, from the Commonwealth Games, and he's a generation below, but now he's rubbing shoulders with him, and it instills belief, you know. Chantel, for instance, you know, picking up little bits of sound bites of information from George and other people, and Dad and stuff like that. It's a good thing to have, you know, to have people rubbing shoulders with even people like George. You know, he's been in the game a long time. He's been pro a long time, and he's got young Lee, who's like rapid on the curve. Like, you know, we'll do different challenges, and he's trying to keep up with the young guns. So, like, from a fitness perspective, it's great for the older fighters to try and keep up with the young lads, but then for the young lads, also getting that little bit of experience and seeing how it all works at top level.
Okay, well, Shane, I appreciate this has been a very busy week, or it's going to get even busier from now on, so I do appreciate your time. This has been an absolute pleasure for me to sit down with you and do a real in-depth, so I feel like we've really got to know each other, so thank you very much for that. Look forward to catching up with you for the rest of the week. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you very much for having me.